Hi everyone, welcome back to the Long Way Back podcast. I'm your host Timmy Long, joined today as my co-host Tommy. Hi Tom.
Hiya.
So today we've a fellow Cork man here, Daragh Fleming.
How's it going?
How are you doing, Daragh?
Good, good.
Good, you just came back from Barcelona.
Just back a few weeks. It was sunny for about half a day, and then it started raining, so it felt like home.
So we're going to get to know you. Yeah, maybe not to the rain, no doubt, Tommy. But we're going to get to know you anyway over the next hour or so. So, you're from Glentown above in Dublin Hill.
No, Glentown by Glanmire.
Oh, Glentown.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? I thought it was Glentown.
Oh, yeah.
So, listen, do you want to just give us a little bit of a breakdown of where you grew up and how it was for you growing up and your family dynamics and stuff like that?
Yeah. So we, when I was born in St. Finbarr's Hospital, and then we lived in Ballinlough, out by Douglas, for the first 4 years of my life. Parents were renting a house there, and then they bought a house out in Glentown. And at that point, I was only 4, but I still remember being really annoyed at that because we were moving out of the city into the sticks. Like, cause live across the road from a cornfield and pigs and all this, and I was like, "What are we moving out here for?" Like, thought it was going to ruin my life. And now, kind of looking back at that, I'm like, it was actually kind of a blessing because, like, out there, you're only 15 minutes outside the city, so you can get in pretty handy, but you still have the kind of quietness of country life, and it was kind of a blessing, but at the time didn't really realize it. And it was just me and my brother and my parents, and have always had an amazing relationship with my parents and my brother. Like, we're really tight. If we fight, it's over silly stuff, like never anything major, which is really nice. And then we obviously have the extended family, like grandparents, loads of aunts and uncles, because that generation. But yeah, like really simple, happy upbringing, really. Yeah, like got on well in school, played basketball, everything was good, until I was 17, and that's kind of when life kind of took a turn for me. So when I was 17, my best friend took his own life. He was 18, the year ahead of me in school. And like, it's because this is 12 years ago now. It's kind of a different Ireland, like, because there was no real talk about mental health. Like, there was no podcast at all, but there was no podcast about mental health. There was no people talking about it. You didn't have your Brezzies, your Blind Boys. You didn't have anything like that going on. So we didn't know that it was something to talk about. And as a result, no one ever talked about it. So when people were struggling, they kind of hid it. And again, my friend Irby, like, from the outside looking in, you know, the girls loved him. He was popular. He was good at basketball. He was good at soccer, good at hurling. Didn't like school, but that wasn't unusual. And then, yeah, just one Wednesday, he took his own life, and we were just left with a lot of questions. And that, like, up until that point, my friends and everyone who knew me would have described me as like a very, like, happy, easygoing person. And then that completely changed afterwards. Because even I remember, like, the day he took his own life, he came up to me after school. It was a Wednesday, so in Douglas Com we got half days on Wednesdays, and he came up to me and he was like, "Oh, do you want to go for lunch?" And I had already made plans with other people, so I was like, "Oh, I've made plans of going into town, but I'll see you training tonight," because we had basketball training the same night. And didn't think anything of it. Just thought he was just, "Do you have any plans?" And he didn't come to training, which again, like, didn't really raise alarm bells, because sometimes he wasn't allowed to come to training if he, like, failed a test or didn't do his homework or something. You take away the things you like, because, well, like, it happened to me as well. And then I get a phone call the next day off my own father saying that Irby tried to take his own life, and he was alive, so they rushed him up to CUH. And, like, the most heartbreaking thing about it was, like, he was awake at some point on the Thursday, and he was saying things like, "I don't want to die." I was just like, cry for help, And then Friday morning, like early Friday morning, he got up to go to the bathroom and had loads of blood clots everywhere, and the blood clots is what ended up killing him. Like, so and then after, like, so, you're coming into a situation like that where we hadn't really had any severe traumas or, like, mental health related things going on in in our lives, and this was the introduction. And like for me, the takeaway was like mental health can get so bad that it'll kill you. Like, and that was a really scary thought because you know we were living in a little echo chamber out in south side of Cork, like to an extent, and that kind of rung home for me that like this can happen to anyone. It's not just happening to other people in other places. Like this can happen to literally anyone. Um, and then like started grieving naturally. Like it was very like he was my best friend in the whole world. And that grief for me kind of more over the course of a few months morphed into pretty bad depression. But again, I didn't have the education around it, so I didn't know I had depression. Uh, and for me, I would have thought just based on like stuff I've seen on TV or movies that depression means you're like sad all the time, and that wasn't the way I was feeling. I was just not. I wasn't feeling anything. Like there was no sadness, no anger, no happiness. I was just completely numb. So I didn't think that lined up with the idea of I had of depression. Um, so I had it for like 3 years before I even realized. I went, did my leaving cert, went to UCC to do applied psychology, and in second year we started learning about depression and the symptoms, and then I started to realize, oh, it's not just that you're sad all the time. It's that you might be numb or you're not feeling joy in the things that usually bring you joy, and you're isolating and the self contempt and the self hate. But again, like so I kind of saw myself in it, but because of this like deep self stigma I had, like I thought if I had depression there was something wrong with me and people would treat me differently. I denied it for like another year, and then I had I was out for Rag Week in third year or something, and we were queuing up to go into a club, and I had this massive panic attack, and I'd never had one before, so I didn't know what was going on. Like I was like, why does it feel like I'm about to? Like, my heart was going to explode, cold sweats, shaking. But like, luckily, I was with a lot of other psychology students, and some of them had had panic attacks, so they knew what was going on, and they brought me home. So it has really been like a story of dealing with a lot of mental health stuff, but having like the support around me when I needed it, which has been a huge help. But like, so after the panic attack, decided to get help, student counselling in UCC, and it was fine telling my friends because they were all psychology students, and it was fine. But I was terrified to tell my parents, and these are parents who were like supportive my whole life, had never told me I couldn't do anything, had never told me there was anything wrong with feeling a certain way or doing a certain thing. Really supportive, and I was still terrified to tell them. And I think that's kind of the power anxiety can have, because it was just like my mind was telling me like they're not going to love you as much if you have depression. Uh, and subsequently told them over dinner one night, and their first words were like, "What can we do to help? What support do we need? Do we need to pay money? What are we doing?" Like, so it was very supportive straight away, and that's just the power of like what your mind can tell you in those moments. And even just the relief I got from telling them that I was like, I've been struggling for 3 years since Irby died. I haven't been right. I haven't felt any emotion for 36 months. Um, and then did my first stint of counselling in UCC summer of 2015, and kind of got back to like a baseline of decent mental health, and started journaling and writing, and that's kind of when the poetry and the fiction writing kind of started.
So up until the time your friend died, no, and when you were talking about that, I was thinking, right, where we come from, we're educated around it because we see it regular enough. We see suicide a lot. Me and Tommy, we've lost our mother to suicide. We've lost the nearest thing to a father we ever had to suicide. We have lost a lot of friends to suicide. I've contemplated and taken my own life numerous times. I've attempted it through drug taking, large quantities of drugs, with the hope that I wouldn't wake up. Not probably being too proud to actually complete it because of just looking at it consistently growing up as a young child, watching my mother being pulled out of a river, or taking tablets and having to phone ambulances. So we are well used to it. We were educated about it. But the understanding that we were given about suicide growing up was only cowards do it.
Yeah.
But that didn't long change later on in life when we had our own experiences with mental health. Like my own struggles, like in early recovery for me, I would have contemplated taking my own life on a daily basis because of the emotional pain. And just bringing it back around understanding education, I hadn't a clue. I was numb like yourself. I didn't know right from wrong, left from right. I hadn't a clue. We literally didn't know what emotions were. We were numbed out for 20 odd years because of the drugs and the drink, you know, and it's the same thing. Doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter the context of where you're brought up, countryside, city. If you're numbed out and you've no connection to what's going on to you emotionally, that's what will happen.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know what a panic attack or anxiety was either because I lived my life in anxiety because my nervous system was broken as a young child. I was completely dysregulated, you know, and I didn't understand all these things either until I started coming into recovery in my life. So Tommy, we can completely relate to that in a lot of ways. And you haven't been the first person that I've spoke Daragh, around losing a friend and the effects of. We had a young lad on here one day. What was his name? Who? Mickey. But we had a young, what was his, Berkey? Remember little rapper? He was 15, 15 years of age. Lovely kid, full of confidence, beautiful to see it. And his buddy was 15 and he took his own life.
Jesus.
And he went away and wrote a little story, but it shatters communities. But bringing it back to my understanding of what it was for someone to take their own life, cowardly, that was the understanding of it back in Daragh.
Yeah.
When someone took their own life. And then you had the understanding that they're not going to heaven because they're going to purgatory. Do you know when Brendan took his own life, my mother's partner, when I was 15, you were probably 12, I used to pray. No, I was destroyed in addiction. I used to pray because he was a good man that he wouldn't be in purgatory. And the same, my mother, I had it drilled into me that they'd be fucking stuck in some place. But you know what the reality of it is? There's a God there. And God doesn't think like that. God is love and he's good and he's whatever. Like, he understands human beings fuck up. We all make mistakes. Do you know what I mean? He understands. And the God I understand in my life is not somebody that's going to fucking, is going to give you more shit or beat you up more because of something like that. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, like I think, you know, in cases of people who are suicidal, I think they very much go through their version of hell while they're here. Like, so, you know, why would you be punished further after that?
Yeah.
It's
we
not.
There's a lack of understanding.
Because there's this idea that it's cowardly. It doesn't really make sense to me because, like, I think everyone has a fairly consistent fear of death, so it's not like they're going to that decision easily. Like,
it's pain.
Yeah,
pain.
They're actually very, very strong people to do it.
Yeah,
you know,
it takes a lot.
Yeah,
it takes a lot.
Absolutely. I've tried it a few times. I've sat in an attic, and I don't say that. I didn't say this much. I sat in an attic for 2 hours smoking roll-ups with a rope around my neck, ready to jump, wrong crying. And I mean, I was close to something in me made me take it off my neck and get back down. That's my first time saying that.
I've never heard you say that before, Tommy.
No.
Well, thank God you.
Yeah.
Whatever told you to stay.
Yeah, and I was bawling, you know? And it's only coming out now listening to you around what went on Fuse, you know? Yeah, and you know, it's the feeling I'm getting here, even saying this, you know? Yeah, but it was a scary time for me. I was in the depths of addiction as well. I couldn't go on. I wanted to die, like, you know? And I couldn't do it that way. So I ended up going out, putting needles in my hand, trying to do it the easy way. So I was too scared to jump. And that's when I put needles in my hands, you know. But it didn't happen. Thank God it didn't happen, you know. And I always say it wasn't meant to happen. wasn't meant to happen.
Wasn't your time, like, yeah.
No, thank God.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came out, but
That was important, huh?
I'm even emotional now saying it, 'cause
Well,
I'm
thanks
not-
for sharing it. Like, it's obviously
yeah.
something you needed to say. So, fair play.
It's tough, but it's tough. Even saying it there, my head's telling me, don't you? But people need to know this too, because
And like, you know, the two of you, I suppose, when in the times when you were suicidal, were you like, was it easy for the people around you to know, or was it very much a case of like masking it? Because
It was very easy to mask it, you see.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of the people that were around us were probably had their own struggles as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you spoke there a while ago, I was saying, Jesus, isn't that beautiful about your family sitting down at the table. We would have never had an opportunity like that, you know, growing up.
Yeah.
Like, we would have been told, get on with it. You'll be grand. Stop acting the fool. That would have been that's what, you know, if we went to certain people.
Yeah.
You know, but there was something stood out there as well, while ago when you were talking about what happened on the day of your friend. I don't know how he tried to take his own life, but on the day of that, did you ever question whether you went to lunch with him, or did that ever come into your mind? Maybe it could have been different if you went to lunch with him.
I mean, it's been 12 years, and I still think about that nearly every day. That if I had gone to lunch with him, would he have told me he was struggling? You know, and that's something I felt really guilty for a long time, because, like, you know, in a way you feel like you let him down, but at the same time, like, he'd obviously been struggling a long time and had never said anything, so he mightn't have said it, and it's hard to know. Like, I'd like to think that if I went to lunch with him, he would have told me and things would have turned out differently, but at the same time, that hope is also painful, because it means if I'd acted differently, things would be different. And that's just something you have to live with as well, you know. You have to
100%. And the reasons I'm asking you that really are based on my own experience with my mother. Because the night before, like, when my mother took her own life, we were on the landing in D-Wing in Midlands Prison, and it was her birthday, and I didn't have too much communication with her at the time because I was going through my own shit. And Tommy was on the phone to her wishing her happy birthday in the class office, and he called me and he says, Timmy, come in there. My mum's on the phone. I said, hi mum, how are you? Happy birthday. And she had good here. I said, how are you getting on? And she said she was seeing a counsellor and she was trying to get well, you know, and it was good to talk to her, but I could sense the lowness in her voice. She wasn't really well, but we were used to that. We were used to it, and I didn't think nothing really of it. You know, the next morning, the priest walked into my cell at 9 o'clock in the morning and telling me that my mother was after taking her own life. But I was destroyed with guilt after that, because I was saying, like, would it have been different if I was taught? Was it my fault that, because I had no communication with her? But it wasn't. You know, I had to really kind of understand it wasn't my fault. My mother had her own struggles, like, and she had her own stuff. And she even went as far as writing out a suicide letter to all of us, to me and my brothers individually, and to her family, you know, and reading that, like, when it came to me in the prison, like, it was probably one of the most difficult challenges in my life, because all that emotional stuff around the fear and the shame and the guilt of not being in contact with her was coming up in tribes whilst I was reading the letter.
Of course.
And it was really difficult. It took me a lot of time to get over that, like, I mean, years to be able to get my head around it. And then, because of my own experiences with suicide, with mental health at the time, early recovery, a lot of fucking stuff coming up from my past, a lot of fear, shame, guilt, and regret, and all these different things, because I'm left with all the emotional stuff from years and years and years of trauma, years and years of addiction, all the shit that I done to other people.
Mm-hmm.
You're left with all that. You're trying to cope with all that then too. And then I started to understand why people actually take their own life,
Mm-hmm.
because of the pain, the emotional pain they're in.
Yeah.
And when you're in emotional pain, which is fear, shame, guilt, whatever it may be, sadness, your mind is working overload,
Mm-hmm.
justifying the way you're feeling. So if I'm feeling full of fear, I'm going to have fearful thoughts, more of them. Shame, more shameful thoughts. And it's like a snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived like that for years. I lived in a really bad situation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I can relate to where you were coming from 200,000,000%. So what was the turning point there? Was it the education? Was the education stuff in the applied psychology course? And but like, it's grand getting the information, okay, and understanding the information on an intellectual level.
Yeah.
But what about the in-depth emotional stuff that was here? Because depression leaves a really, really dull, stagnant feeling as well within your body, in the air.
Mm-hmm.
How did you deal with that?
I think to an extent I'm still dealing with it. Like, so when I went to counselling the first time, we primarily dealt with Irby's death and how that affected me, but we didn't really talk about. I had an ongoing issue with relationships as well, because my first girlfriend, who I'd been going out with probably 6 months before Irby died, cheated on me quite a lot. And I'm not saying that on the podcast to like throw dirt or whatever. Like, there's no bad blood, but that affected me really negatively as well, because it was like very much embedded like a fear of abandonment, and that if you open up yourself to someone, you're going to get hurt because they have the ability to, the vulnerability. It's a risk, and I think that's important for love and relationships, that you are vulnerable. And then Irby died, so that compounded this and kind of twisted a fear of abandonment, because I now had this idea that, like, if I get close to people, they either hurt me or they die, which are two pretty terrible things. And then so in counselling, we focused on Irby primarily, and then I kind of got back to a place where I was fine, but my relationships were still terrible. Like, every time something started getting real, I'd run away. I was using sex as self-care, just very like toxic relationship with myself, and as a result, my romantic relationships were terrible as well. But I wasn't like depressed. I was feeling emotions, but just hadn't come to grips with relationships. And so, like, when I wrote Lonely Boy, I started writing that in 2020 because the relationship issue was still ongoing. And it was really just at the start, like, I didn't sit down with the idea of writing a book. I was like, I need to figure out why relationships keep messing up for me, why I keep running away from them. And it kind of boiled down to the relationship I had with myself. Like, I kind of found out in that book that because Irby died and I felt like I didn't deserve to be happy because he didn't get the chance to be. So then I was like kind of self-sabotaging all the time. And so at the end of writing that, I kind of is when things started to make sense again. But at the same time, like, in college is when I started the whole kind of mental health mission, for want of a better phrase, because my two goals really with all the mental health work has been, I want people to stop killing themselves, and I want people to stop having to grieve people who kill themselves, because both situations are horrible and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. Like, and that, so I started doing that straight out of college. I started the blog, started writing, but I suppose the clicking into place of being comfortable with myself and actually loving myself has only happened in the last 3 or 4 years. Like,
and do you use any form of practice for that? Like, do you, like, for me, I started using some inner child work. Okay. So I started going back into different areas of my life. I started going back to the child who was neglected and abused. Started going back to the teenager who was neglected and abused, okay, who was caught up in alcohol and drugs, who wasn't understood, who was bullied. I went into the man who was full of shame and guilt and fear because of the lifestyle he was involved in around drink and drugs and criminality. Because all of them are the same person. So I started going back every time I was triggered around something that I'd done or something that had happened to me in these different areas of my life. I started to go back into that person. I went back into that time frame, that moment in time. I brought myself back there, and I processed that situation with that person, with whoever it was, the teenager, the child, the adult man, and I showed him how, and I gave him love. I gave him love. I told him it was going to be okay, and I sat with him. Nothing but unconditional love from myself. And that's when my life started to change. With that, the mindfulness around sitting with myself, and just acceptance is a word that can be used, but it doesn't do the whole action of it justice. You can sit and accept what's going on for you in life or situations, or when you're powerless over them. You can sit with them. But it's about sitting with them and just being non-judgment. Having that took on me a long time, because I had this innate kind of built-in mechanism to fight everything, because of my upbringing, being bullied, and the environment I grew up in. You had to be tough because you wouldn't survive, in the home environment, in school, everywhere. And because I had that built into me, it was very difficult for me to stop and not fight the thoughts, not fight the emotions. So I just kept sitting with it, and the thoughts would keep coming in, and every thought was just a thought. Every thought belonged to a thought. If I thought I was doing well during the meditation, I knew it was just another thought. If I thought I was doing bad, if I thought about how long I was sitting, everything was just a thought. And all the emotional stuff that was coming up, because people have to understand this. When you sit to meditate, your mind will bring a lot of shit to the surface. The worst of the worst stuff. You're this, you're that, the other. And then with that, we get emotions flooding into us. And I had to learn to sit with that. And the action of acceptance was non-judgment and just sitting. It wasn't me in my mind telling me, I accept this, I accept that. That's not acceptance for me. Acceptance is sitting and being compassionate to yourself and non-judgmental. And these things have stood to me massively around the emotional effect of the trauma and releasing that trapped energy. That really. And as Joe Dispenza says, a thought without an emotion has no effect. Has no effect. A negative thought without an emotion has no effect. So if I'm thinking of something that happened before, and I can bring stuff up that has happened before that would have crippled me with shame before, I bring it up in my mind now. There's nothing there. There's nothing here. It's not there, like.
Yeah, you're no longer attached to it.
I allowed it to be. It wasn't it wasn't an enemy anymore. I accepted it as being part of my life.
Yeah, you're not like letting the past control the present, essentially. Like,
you can't. It's like the weather. Do you fight it? If you fight it, you're going to fight a losing battle. If you can understand the human body and the biology of how we work emotionally as the same as the weather, you will get it. You will understand it, and that's the best analogy I could use for it. Stop fighting it.
And I think, because when I was depressed, the last thing I wanted to do was spend time on my own, because that's when all the bad thoughts would be. That's where I'd meet them. And I think just generally, nearly everyone's life is set up to not spend time on your own, Because even when people are on their own, TV's on the background, podcasts on, music's on, something's always there with you. So I think we're really, just as a society, uncomfortable with even the thought of like sitting with your own thoughts. We don't really like I think meditation has become more popular, but it's still a minority of people doing it because most of us are still really uncomfortable with that idea of like sit down, feel the emotions, hear the thoughts, and try to get through it. Like I think.
But if you're in bad enough shape mentally, you'll do anything. I was at that store. I had nothing left. I couldn't use drugs and alcohol anymore because I would lose my family. I didn't want to go back in medication from the doctor because I knew it wouldn't be good for me because I was in recovery. And I didn't want to be fucking blocked away emotionally. So the only thing that I had in front of me was the meditation. And I have ADHD, so you can imagine how difficult it was for me. We literally had to put hand in hand on each lap and stop the legs from moving. It was mad. If I could just describe the process of meditation, mindfulness for me at the beginning, it was like a black fucking space. It was just a blackness, and just floods and floods and floods of negative thoughts about myself, that I was bad, it was worthless, like no good, just kept coming, and all the emotional stuff then to project that kept coming, and I just one day I just stopped, and I just breathed into it. I left the thoughts, I left the emotional stuff, and I just kept breathing. And it was like, this is never going to end. That was the voice in the head. And I just looked at that as another thought. And I kept breathing. And I started getting gaps in between this stuff then. I mean gaps, like my head was 100 miles an hour. I started noticing gaps for a few seconds. And I knew then at that moment in time how to work with this stuff. And I found a way to work with it. Just breathe. No matter how I'm feeling, breathe into it. No judgment.
And it's amazing how like simple it is. Like, it's not like a very complicated process. It just takes effort and the ability to be uncomfortable. Because I think that's what most people struggle with, is like they resist and will do anything to not be uncomfortable. I think a lot of us do that.
Everything. We'll actually make up some form of excuse in our head for a reason that we can't meditate. And that still happens to me. It can happen to me.
Yeah.
But like, if I don't meditate today, I don't beat myself up over it.
Yeah.
Because I try to stay in my awareness for most of the day. I don't always get it right. If I'm driving, I try it. If I'm washing the wear at home, I'll do it. If I'm sitting at the table having a cup of tea, I'll check in with myself, see how I am. I'm in the gym and I'm training and I'm into the muscle area of my body instead of my head, thinking about what he's thinking or she's thinking, or looking at her or looking at him. Do you get me?
Yeah, no, like
I'm in the muscle. I'm feeling whatever tension is in the muscle.
Yeah.
Whatever stress or pain or if there's acid from training, overtraining, the lactic acid in your body. I'm feeling that. I'm breathing into it, and I lower. And even the mind comes in saying stop. Mind will tell you stop. You don't have to.
What are you doing? Like,
more. I'll keep going, and I'll stop when I'm ready.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I integrated it into my life in a lot of different areas.
And I think that's what it should be, because I know I was brought up thinking that physical health and mental health are like separate, but they're very much part of the same system.
Like that.
And even like now, the same as yourself, like if I go to the gym or I go for a run, it's doing the same thing, but I look at it from a mental health perspective. So it's like, so the side impact is I might look a little better or like be in better shape, but the main thing I'm focusing on is like, if I go for this run, I know how I'm going to feel after. And it's going to allow me to move my body and be out of my head. And that's why, and it's just changing your perspective. It's the same thing. You just switch how you're looking at it. And that's been Like I started doing this thing called, because we all have physical health routines, and I started doing this thing called a mental health routine, where I have 5 or 6 things that I need to do every day that I know are good for my mental health. And that's really simple, like exercise, drink enough water, sleep, spend time with people, spend time on my own. Do 5 of those things every day and stay consistent with them. And it gives me like a very reliable baseline of good mental health. And it also allows me to check, like if I'm not feeling good, like, oh, I've only been getting 4 hours of sleep every night. That's probably affecting this. Like, and it's really like, because I feel like when I go into these places and give talks and we're talking about mental health and we're talking about meditation, I think a lot of people can feel a little distant from that. So I'm like, here's a really practical thing you can do. Here, 5, 6 things on your mental health routine. Make sure you do them every day, and watch what happens. Like in a really, and then like so they would be like the non-negotiable ones, and then after that, like add in. So I love writing, love reading, love meditating. So then I do those. But for other people, they might hate reading. So why would you put it on your mental health routine? And again, as you said, if I don't meditate every day or if I don't exercise every day, I don't beat myself up about it because I didn't need it for my mental health that day.
Yeah.
And it's just finding that practice of like bringing mental health into your daily life as like not a passive thing, because I think we've been trained to be very passive about mental health and only worry about it when it gets bad. But the same way, like if you want to be ripped tomorrow, or like you want to be ripped, you can't just do one big workout today and expect to have a 6-pack tomorrow. You have to do months of work and discipline. And I think mental health, fitness is very similar. Like you do have to put in the work. Like
you have to, and you have to stay on top of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's no end to being well. There's no end. And say, for example, if you're depressed in 2020 and you're well in 2022, understand this. Going into 2024, you can be better than you are in 2022. There's no end to it. You can continue to get well consistently. The same way you can continue to get unwell. You know, it works both ways, and it's all about just doing the work. Always doing the work and moving forward and doing what's right for you. Like my own routine, to look at, I meditate in the mornings. You know, I try to get my day structured and organised. And the biggest one for me is if I'm triggered in any way by a situation or something at work or a person at work or a person in my life in some way, I don't always get it right. But something, if I can just become aware in that moment in time and be aware then with no judgment, that's more powerful than any meditation session, and just sit with it without judgment. It's like I get a release in my body, like energetically. It's like, whoa, it's like it just comes from my legs up, it just leaves me. And I believe that's trapped negative energies that's in my body from whenever. I don't know when, it's just there. I get a real, say for example, no way back, I had the fella frothing from the mouth inside in the van, screaming and roaring at me. God knows what he was saying, but my blood was boiling in my body and I wanted to fucking kill him. Do you know? But I know if I got out of the van to him, I'm going back to jail. Right? Hands down. So I sat there and I left him off. I felt less of a man because of it, because that was where you're brought up. You have to react violently or aggressively.
Yeah.
You can't come out lower than the other fella. But I didn't. But something left me that moment in time. I went into my body and I felt the vibrations of the fucking rage and the anger that I had for him. And I sat with it without judgment. And shortly after that, it was just like, it just left me. It just left. But I was still left with the thought that like I probably should have fucking got out of the van, but like I wouldn't be sitting here now because of that kind of stuff. That's not how I want to live my life today. But if you can become aware in those moments and just allow it to be felt in your body, the head will tell you all sorts of stuff because it's your ego. And when you're being attacked emotionally or physically, your ego start to jump in and wants you to react and mind, because the ego's there to do that.
Yeah.
It's there to help you, to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about releasing. That's a great way to become
Yeah,
mindfulness.
you're after reminding me of something. My father, he grew up in Ballyfihan, and when I was growing up, he always used to tell me, you get to choose how you react emotionally. He always used to tell me that. Like, you don't have to react anyway. And when I was younger, I didn't really understand what he was talking about. I was like, of course, like if I'm sad, I'm just going to be sad. If I'm angry, I'm going to be angry. But what he was really talking about is like, you're obviously going to feel an emotion, but you can create a gap between you and the emotion and then choose whether you're going to let that emotion drive on and take over or whether you're going to like work through it. And he was like, never got it until like the last 5 years. I was like, oh, he wasn't just spouting nonsense. He actually had a point.
Smart man, intelligent.
Yeah.
Many people go through their lives without even understanding this stuff because they're just comfortable. You know,
Yeah.
I'm happy that I had a tough life because it pushed me into wanting to get well. And when you start getting well, then you start understanding there's more to it.
Yeah.
Daragh, listen, trust me here, pal. I fuck up a lot still.
Oh, me too.
Do you know what I mean? I'm
Everyone
no
does.
fucking
Yeah.
saint. I'm no saint.
You're only human, like.
I get caught up in drama and shit just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I always want to do better.
Mm-hmm.
I always want to do better for me or other people. I always want people to be happy, to come out better off than they've been going in. You know, and that's my aim.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the people pleaser in me, you know, from my own fucking childhood. But once I keep doing what I believe in that way, I think I'm doing okay.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So-
it's like, because as you said, like we all fuck up and make mistakes, and I think the only time that becomes an issue is when you don't learn or grow from it. Like, you're just like, I'm just going to keep making the same mistakes over and over. And I think everyone at some point does that, where you just keep, because you're not, like when I was 20, 21, 22, a lot of like casual sex and using that as self-care, I kept doing it. And I was like, next time it'll be different. Next time it'll be different. And I wasn't like, because I wasn't like trying to like analyze or figure out why I needed that, then I just kept making the same mistakes. And it was only when I figured out what the issue was, I was like, okay, now I can learn from that. And then it no longer becomes something to feel bad over because you've now learned from it. But if you're not learning from it, then you're just being a prick over and over again. Then
just repeats itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a continuous, it's just a wheel.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with porn.
Mm-hmm.
Porn is just the exact same thing. If you keep watching porn, nothing will change. And the actual hole that it has in there will keep. It'll stay there, and it'll be stronger and stronger and stronger until you actually understand that. Let's look at this now and see where the benefits are for me. You know, if it's doing this for me, it's unhealthy for me. It'd be unhealthy for me because it brings me back to my old behaviors, you know.
And even just the way you perceive what like a relationship with a woman is, or sex, what the purpose of sex is, like I think it has a massive effect there. But I think, to come back to your question from about 15 minutes ago, what things have in place, tools? I think what's been massive for me is like forgiveness based meditation. So similar to yourself, meditating with the intent of like, if any of those thoughts of like, oh, remember when that happened with that person, or I messed up in this situation, and actually like actively forgiving myself, which is similar to your child work, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think that, because I think for the longest time, the reason there was so much self-hate is because I hadn't forgiven myself for a lot of stuff. And and that's when people are, you know, when people say if someone brings up something and they cringe or it makes them uncomfortable, like the reason it's making you uncomfortable is because you haven't forgiven yourself for that thing that happened. And sometimes it's small, silly things, but other times it's like you really actually hurt someone.
Yeah.
And I think a forgiveness practice to the self is huge. Once you're like, I forgive myself, but because like you don't want to fall into a situation where you're forgiving yourself for something you did and then doing it again.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, now you're just letting yourself get away with being a little shit, like, you know.
And that's not healthy.
No.
You know, it's not healthy, and it's coming from the wrong place.
Exactly, like yeah.
If you forgive yourself and you understand the depth of it,
Exactly.
I think you can move on from it.
Mm-hmm.
What's your routine, Tommy, for this stuff?
Well, I don't know. I know my head hurts since the last.
Go on, tell us, Tom.
And that's my mental health. For what I said there a while ago, and it's just after kind of affected me. And I don't know. I'm just
In what way, Tommy?
I don't know.
I thought it was powerful,
I
yeah.
know,
Yeah,
but my head is I'm dealing with my head here now the last 15
Can
minutes.
you do this? Can you do this, right? And I can see it in your eyes.
1 second, just like, and it's just my head's telling me, no, I should. What do you have to say? You tell him, hey, that's where my head's gone now to get at me. But,
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's just.
But just
small
do
bit.
you understand the importance of what you did say?
I do, of course, and I'm trying to feel the feelings, and I'm just a small bit all over the place.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
But you know the way you are right now. Do you know how you're feeling? That could last for an hour. It might last. Like you have to understand there's no way you're going to think at the moment to take that away. There's no.
And I know that, and I'm listening to you there all the time, and I'm saying, nah, they're miles ahead of me and all this, and you know the way the head be coming in. But yeah, just a small bit awkward after saying it, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
And it'll probably lodge
And
with you for a while.
I know that, and I know it will pass as well. And just, I had to say that. You know what I mean? I had to get that off. Because like you asked me a question there, and I couldn't speak because this was after consuming me.
I can see it in your face. I can see the different energy around you.
So I'm just a small bit all over the place over that. But it's okay, I'm sitting with it and I'm feeling it and I'm fucking.
That's you.
I think
we never talked about that before.
I think it would be unusual if you weren't feeling a certain way about it. You know? If you were like, could you say that and it didn't bother you?
But I could talk about that before and be completely numb about it. You speaking about being numb and that I can be like that. But like today, I'm feeling emotions, but I can't watch things on TikTok and I never try, and I never like that.
But that's cool. I remember, because you know, there's this thing with like masculinity, and that we shouldn't be emotional or sad
and
or upset.
That's the way I grew up, and he'd tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Emotions for me were always pushed down. And in the last couple of years, I done step work on myself, and ever since I done the step work, my emotions are coming at me, and that's what's happening.
You know, the next time you're watching TikTok, come up to the house to me, and we'll have a cry together.
And do you know what? Do you know what I get very emotional, and it's mad. Watching, you know, like army people coming home to their families.
Yeah.
I'd be up in heap
of course, man.
I'm telling you, man. You know, the families waiting, man. It's mad, but I'd be like, God, you're going for this dog.
You know what that probably
it's
means
mad,
to me?
né?
Do you know do you know what that means to me? Probably something that we're lacking.
Yeah, and I'd be
you know, that community, that kind of family bond, the love, and the.
Come here, and I'd be always. Sorry, no, but I'd be always thinking of that. I'd be saying, where's that coming up now in my life? But I can never get the answer. But I'm always questioning, why is it these stuff? And I could be hooked on them for a half an hour, going on to different ones, you know?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, God.
I think answers like that, if you know, like if you're trying to remember like a celebrity's name, and if you keep trying to think about it, you'll never get there. But if you think about it and then leave it go, and then it'll come later. I think those answers are similar.
It didn't come yet, but you know.
It'll come.
Yeah, but I am questioning it, and I'm waiting for it. But I feel 10 times better now after fucking.
I'm glad.
Twice and that, you know.
Yeah.
Do you relate to the soldier or to the family members?
That's the question.
I'd say it's the child. I think it's the child.
I'm still trying to.
For me, it's the dogs.
Even the dogs.
When I see
the dogs.
that's the love. Do you know the love from the dog, the unconditional love?
Mm.
That's what catches me.
It's like when the dog comes and sees the person and they're sussy, and then they realise it, bang, it's their...
Like that is, like that's my favorite part. We've a German Shepherd named Lexi, and like I love coming home, seeing my parents. Great to see you, but I'm like, where's Lexi? Because I know she's going to lose her mind when I walk through the door, and that's the best part. Like,
Isn't it?
it is the best part.
I mean, with a big
I'm like,
smile.
yeah, it's like I missed you, but I missed her way more. No one reacts like this.
Isn't it just amazing what we can get from animals? Like how they actually teach us to love. Like I have a dog at home there, she loses her breath. She forgets to breathe when she sees me when I'm away. She actually forgets to fucking breathe. The dog changes colour and all, and she's grey. The dog goes pale or white. I swear to God, and he looks around, she's licking the face on it. But it's powerful. It's powerful, and I'm gone so bad now I can't even fucking book a holiday because of the dog.
Yeah.
Because just trying to... It's either I go in the holiday with the kids and Nicole stay home to mind the dog, or she goes away. And do you know what, Tony? I've been thinking of how to go about that. I'll have to.
You have to
It's
get
a
on
recurring
that
theme.
Or else I'm going to have to just fucking pretend she's one of the stuffed dogs. Give her an old sleeping thing and pretend she's stuffed and put her into one of the bags or something. There for us.
We're going a bit too far now.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, bud. But listen, Tom, fucking, that was important stuff to share there. Thank you.
Well, that's what was going on for me, and I feel 10 times better now after seeing it drive.
Yeah.
Because I was in here and it was like just editing me out of this. That's where my head was going, like, with it. But
Fair play, boy.
yeah.
No, but I find like with stuff like that, even if it's like a negative, even more so negative emotion, I try to remind myself, like if I'm feeling anxious or stressed or uncomfortable, because there was so many years where I couldn't feel any emotion, I'm now like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but I'm feeling things.
Yeah.
And that's a good place to be. It's like, this is a negative emotion, but I'm feeling it. Because there was a time when I couldn't feel it. So to be able to feel it, it's like I'm alive, I'm back.
Yeah.
Even if it's like stress or...
And like that's all new to me, and it's hard to process as well, do you know what I mean? But I'm getting there with it.
Yeah.
And I'm actually enjoying it as well at times. I wasn't enjoying it there, no. And then I was put in the spot and I had to get it off my chest, you know what I mean? But I'm learning to enjoy it, the uncomfortable, and realise it, you know, but it all takes work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And like some days you'll be really good with it and other days you won't.
Yeah.
It's
just
not
depends
linear,
on
like
your
it's
situation
all over
and
the
place and time, and do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But all in good time.
Exactly.
All in good time.
Exactly. There's
Yeah.
no rush. No one's on you.
Yeah.
That's great progress. I've seen transformation in you in the last 6 years there. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, in comparison to where he was there 6 years ago, it was like, it was just a worry for us. Just when we're going to get a phone
We put
call.
up a video on our last podcast.
A worry, no, when I say worry around
And,
his death, when we're going to get a
yeah.
phone call or someone's going to call to the
Like
door.
It was just like looking back, and it was like, whoa, I forgot I was there. Like
You look like a different person.
you forget where you are, like
Yeah.
that. You don't remember.
And he was so skinny, right? He was so skinny, and he'd such a mop ahead. You could turn him upside down and just use him as a mop. The hair was out here, and he was like that and going.
Yeah.
Stop.
It took him about 20 minutes to sit down. It took him 20 minutes. I'd say, Tommy, like.
Yeah.
It was mad.
Well, you know, I've had that as well, like the years where it was bad that I can't remember a lot of the stuff that happened.
Yeah.
And I read somewhere before that like you need to connect emotionally to something for it to encode in memory. So if you're in a place where you're not feeling emotions, you're less likely to like remember that stuff really like specifically. Because even if if you have a dream that's really emotional, like I've had dreams of my brother dying, my father dying, my mother dying, and they're really emotional, and I can remember those dreams perfectly. But other dreams, like they just come and go, and I think like if you're not feeling emotion, then you're not connecting to the memory, so you're probably not going to remember it.
Like I go to seminars now, and in the seminar we do meditation, and he says go back to when you're a child. I can't go back and remember something. The only thing I can remember as a child is been in a sailor suit in my communion. I can't remember anything after it, not anything before it. You know, I've a vision in my head of getting a kick of a horse, alright, because it was told so many times to me.
Right, yeah, you like
you know?
reconstructed it, like.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I have that story in my head, and I have my way it happened, and other people have it their way, and I like, no, it's this way.
Mm-hmm.
I have it in my head, but it's probably their way, but I have my own way made up, you know. And then up into my teens, I can't remember a whole lot of it.
Mm.
You know, so everything, there's a lot pushed down there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's only the time now, because it's happening to me now. I'm only feeling emotions. I was numb. I'm telling you now, I didn't even cry when I saw my mother laid out in the coffin. That's how numb I was.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, it can be scary, like to. And the thing about being emotionally numb is you can't even feel afraid of the fact
and
you're not feeling anything.
Then
you know?
I'm back in my cell in the Midlands prison. My brother's room crying, and I know I'm in the cell saying, there's something fucking wrong with me. I'm not even crying. My mum's laid out in the coffin. You know, I'm questioning myself then. What the fuck is this? Mental. If you told me it was mental health, I hadn't a clue. I didn't know back then properly around it. You know, it was in my house, yeah, but I still hadn't a clue around it. You know, but yeah. So to be that numb, that cold, family members, my grandmother, they all passing at their funerals. No, nothing. Just pure.
Disconnected.
Yeah. Mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's normal,
scary,
though,
like.
Tommy, in comparison to when you look at the life you've had.
Yeah,
And
it's
upbringing.
like
It's normal.
Oh, it's self-protection, like I would say.
Yeah.
It's normal.
yeah, and you went on about relationships. I can run from them as well. I'd be like, whoa, things get too close. I'm gone. It's fucking.
See how far he's after coming out of the shell there now since he opened up.
Yeah.
It's
You're back in the conversation.
Back in the conversation,
I
like,
tell you now, I was edited. I was gone.
No, man, that's.
you know.
I'm not doing them no more. I'm telling you now, that's the way my head was. Just.
And me and you were sitting here having a conversation. We didn't have a clue what was gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
See the mental health for you.
That's how
See
crazy.
see how you don't know what's going on with people in the room. It's mad.
Yeah.
We just if there was a way, right? If there was a way
If you
that
had a
others,
strap on your hand and it buzzed when you.
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
When you are it went a different color, and it showed that somebody was in a really, really bad state, well-being state, that everybody else around them could say, "Oh, what's wrong?"
Yeah.
What's
going on?
Because they're not going to say it. They're not going to talk. Tony, you know yourself. He's not going to talk about it. We just seen it there live. He wasn't going to talk about that stuff until we asked him.
Yeah.
But if there was a way that the body projected it through some form of material or something like that, and others could see it, you know.
You usually sense it in someone, you know.
You can, but I couldn't see his face from here. It wasn't until he turned to me I could see his face, and I could see the darkness in his eyes, and I could see his skin was after going a bit paler. You know what I mean? I would have known anything other than that.
You were asked what tools do you use for your mental well-being.
Yeah, well.
You do the 7-minute thing in the
I
morning.
do. That's a big thing for me.
What is it, Tommy?
Oh yeah. So when I wake up in the morning, first thing I do, I turn off my alarm, obviously, or usually I'm awake before it. I get out my phone, I put on my stopwatch. So I start it. I do 3 minutes of gratitude, gratefulness, what I'm grateful for, who I'm grateful for, what. So I do that for 3 minutes. Then I do a minute and a half of planning my day, what I'm going to do my best to help people, you know, get this done in my day, ring this person, you know, all that stuff for a minute and a half. Then for the next minute and a half, I do where I want to be in my life, what I want to have in my life in the next 5 years. So I'm shouting them out in my head. So I'm around the house, I'm buzzing. Sometimes I'm in my car doing it. So I do that for another minute and a half. That's 6 minutes. And for the last minute, then I get myself up going and put on a bit of music and into high positive, and it sets me off. I had a great day. I actually done a video on it today as well about it, like. But it sets me off for the day. I don't try to feed into drama during the day, but I get caught up in it.
Yeah,
I don't work every day. You still get caught up in it,
course,
and
like, yeah.
but it helps me.
It's a good
it gives me
baseline, like,
structure in my day, and I do it. And I'm doing it with 3 people. I'm doing it with Tony. I do it with another girl, and I do it with my sponsor. So 3 people I'm accountable every day to send them, to let them know I have my 7 minutes done, and they send it back to me then as well.
And I'm shocking at it.
No, but yeah, it's all in good time. All in good time, John. It took me routine, yeah. It took me a long time to get it right.
And again, it's so simple. Like,
and it's just about
so good,
changing
like,
your story when you get up in the morning.
Yeah.
Because when, like, I can get up, and I'm not messing. I got on a bus 3 years ago to climb 4 peaks. And before I got on that bus, I was waking up in the mornings and I was like, oh God, in here now, do this, not able, a load of foods in here, do this and do that, throw that negative shit. My head was like that, dragging my arse up out of the bed, I swear to God. And my friend of mine there, Paul McCarthy, hello my friend, I went to his seminars.
Oh, I've gone to a few.
Yeah,
They're good.
That's where I saw you.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, listening to Paul and change your story and you're not your thoughts and all that, and like I have a big friends, I have a lot of friends, and I ask my friends to come to him. If I don't like something, I won't go back. But there's something happened me in them rooms that I want, and my head slow down. Slow down my thinking and this and that, and so I was waking up and I was happy to get out of bed. All that negative thinking started going away. And with the last 3 years, there's none of that. I don't wake up and say, fuck's sake, I don't. I might wake up tired, but that's all right. I know by the time I get to Blackpool, I'm buzzing. Because I do my 7 minutes. I'm doing them now nearly 2 years. Every morning. And I don't get it every morning, but I get it a lot of mornings.
Yeah.
I definitely get it 6 mornings out of the week. And it changes my whole day, my whole outlook on the day. And I can see other people being negative, but sometimes you get sucked into it. And sometimes you can step back and let them out.
Yeah, it sounds.
Keep it going, Tommy.
Yeah. So that's what I do every morning. My phone, my pictures are full of 7 minutes from screenshots, And I'm telling you, it's powerful. It changes your whole day. There's so many people doing it as well. There's a group I'm in and they're all doing it every morning as well. And just be what do you call it? Consistent, and like if I was sending it to you and you were sending it to me, accountable to someone. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it's about. And sometimes I'm like, we have it now, and then I get one, so fuck after. And you're
better after them.
And you're brand new again. That's what I do on my day.
Isn't that true of, like, I think that's so true of everything, like, we, like, to do it, like, well-being, there's a lot of times where, like, I don't want to do this, but I know afterwards I'll be better for it. Like, I don't want to go exercise, but I know it'll, you know, and I think that's true of not just mental health stuff. Like, I don't want to go to the dentist, but I know I should. It's good. This thing is good for me to do. Like
I go to personal training 3 times a week.
Just look at the muscles, Tommy.
Where you? and I do a circuit on a Saturday morning. But like I was in a load of gyms and I be in them and paying money and I go to them once in a month. Do you know what I mean? So I'm accountable to
you
going
need that.
in,
You need that
and
accountability.
I need it.
Yeah.
Because I like going and I like getting up and doing it.
But isn't it good that you know that about yourself?
Yeah.
Like,
but if I had to go to the gym on my own and home and they out me, I'm not going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So personal training is the way to go.
There you
Telling
go.
you, get on it, lads.
But come here, Daragh, just back to you there for a minute. So you wrote The Lonely Boy, and you have a notebook here. I can't pronounce that.
Enigmatic.
Enigmatic. And what's this book about?
It's a collection of poems, basically about, because enigmatic means like something that's mysterious or confusing, and I think for a long time I found that I didn't really fit in, and I felt like outside of what was going on with like social groups or career or whatever it is. So they're kind of poems about like trying to find a way into life.
Have you any personal favourite poem from this book that you think is really represents maybe an era, a time in your life that you felt a certain way, or maybe represents you as a person?
There's a poem I really like called Heartache in Between.
I actually had mine. It was the page I had open.
There you go, man. We did not plan that. I promise.
Meant to be. It
Do you want
has
to
to be
do
read.
you want to say it out for us?
I actually know it, so I can.
Oh
just,
yeah, go on.
Oh, brilliant.
So Heartache in Between. They shake my hand like men trying to sway my vote, and I hope for a bathroom to escape to. In a coffee shop on a Wednesday, you triumphantly tell me that you've never read anything I've written. A dissolvable vitamin C drink spills and spreads into cream carpet as another woman sends another text to cancel a date last minute. And I sit here as the carpet stains, wondering what this is all about. What exactly is the purpose of all of this?
There's depth in that. There's a lot of depth in that.
So I kind of wrote that about, I think sometimes there can be, because, you know, we all know how big disappointments or frustrations feel, but I think there can be a lot of like little wounds that build up over time, and you mightn't even notice them when they happen, but then maybe at the end of the week or the end of the month, you're feeling not yourself and you mightn't know why. And it's just a compound effect of all these little places where you, maybe not even what people have done to you, but like where you felt isolated or alone, and then just sitting with that at some point and just kind of feeling that emotion. I think it's a really kind of difficult feeling to articulate, but I tried to do it with that poem.
Powerful boy.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. You know, you're living in Barcelona at the moment, which is amazing.
Anytime you want to come over, lads.
Oh, trust me, you'll be sorry for saying that. No.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the crack? I'll see you on Friday. Timmy J's Wednesday. But listen, it's been a pleasure having you on, and hear you speak so openly about your experiences and speak so highly about the people that you've had in your life who've inspired you, your friend and his family. Just want to shout out to him and
I appreciate that.
For anybody that's listening to this today or whenever they're listening to it, you know, just for them to know that there is hope. You know, look at the table here today. You know, we the three of us and Tony, we've came through our own different struggles in different ways. You know, but today we have that form of strength or these tools built into us as human beings to be able to cope, you know, and just knowing that tomorrow will be different. You know, there's no 2 days the same, and it'll always pass. You know, today will pass like yesterday passed, and just to have that belief. And if you can take anything from tonight, I think not just your story, but what happened to Tommy, dear.
Absolutely.
What happened to Tommy during the show, where he kind of shut off from us because of something that he said, and only that we asked him a question, he started to open up again and tell us what it was. And I think it's important for people to talk about that stuff too, and
I think that's key as well, because I think we tend to, like, if someone's dealing with something, we tend to be like, oh, I'm here if you need to talk. But I actually think we need to be the ones who start the conversation, ask the question, how are you? No, really, how are you? Like, what's going on? Because like when you're struggling with something, the last thing you're going to do is just talk about it. So I think that really like was a perfect example of like someone reaching out to you and then you being able to talk about it, which is
100%.
good.
Like there's a saying, like when you say to someone, how are you? Oh, I'm fine, I'm grand. No, really, how are you?
Yeah.
Then
Ask them twice.
then it sinks in.
And
then people kind of come out of themselves. Right? I
So
see
thanks,
that
boys.
myself, and powerful. Unreal.
Thanks, and I'm sure we'll do something again down the line for
Absolutely,
sure, 100%.
absolutely, let's
So
do it.
listen to everybody. Thanks to Tony, Daragh, and Tommy
Thanks,
for
Tony.
joining
Thanks,
us tonight
Daragh.
Thanks for having me, guys.
for a really, really powerful podcast, and a lot of it made sense. I hope it makes sense to a lot of the people at home who are listening to it. So again, I'm Timmy, Tommy, and Dara, and Tony. Thank you so much for listening. God bless.
Thanks, lads.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.